Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting straight to the heart of a really urgent situation. We're focusing our attention on Haiti, specifically on a recent Associated Press report that, well, it paints a pretty stark picture.
It really does.
Our mission here is to quickly grasp the alarming scale of this crisis unfolding in the capital, Port-au-Prince, and beyond, to understand the realities on the ground, the factors at play.
And what's really striking coming from senior UN officials in this report is their assessment. They're talking about a dramatic escalation of violence.
Right.
And what they're calling near total control by gangs in Port-au-Prince. So we're going to try and unpack what that truly means for the country and for its people.
Yeah, that phrase, near total control of the capital, it just immediately grabs you. It's incredibly strong language.
It is.
Does the report actually put a number on that, on that level of dominance? And what's the broader implication of gangs holding such a tight grip?
It absolutely does. And the number is, frankly, sobering. Gada Fethi-Wale, she's the executive director of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime Estimates, a staggering 90%.
90%, wow.
90% of Port-au-Prince is now estimated to be under criminal group control. But, what's maybe even more concerning is that this isn't just contained to the capital anymore.
Okay.
These attacks are aggressively expanding. They're moving into surrounding areas, even parts of southern Haiti that were, previously considered relatively peaceful.
So it's spreading out.
It is. They've
Yeah.
seen a sharp increase in gang-related incidents there. And they're also exploiting these eastern land routes. Critical crossings like Belladere and Malpass, places where police and customs officials have actually been directly targeted.
Right.
This whole surge in control, it really intensified after the assassination of President Jovenel Moise back in July 2021. Haiti hasn't had a president since then.
Still no president.
No. And this control estimate, it's actually gone up. It was previously around 85%. Now it's hit 90%.
Okay, so if 90% of the capital is effectively under gang control, what does that actually look like? I mean, for daily life. When criminal groups have that much dominance, how does it impact the state's ability to function? And maybe more importantly, how does it affect everyday citizens, like you listening?
Well, it means the state's authority it's rapidly diminishing. It's almost becoming irrelevant in large parts of the city. And what's fascinating and also incredibly disturbing here is that these gangs aren't just sort of filling a void. They are actively setting up what the report calls parallel governance structures.
Parallel governance.
Yeah. They're basically creating their own rules, their own systems, because, well, public services are either absent or severely limited.
So they step in.
They step in. And the economic fallout from this is it's catastrophic. Gangs control the major trade routes now.
Right.
It's paralyzed legal commerce, and that directly translates into soaring prices for essentials, especially things like cooking fuel and rice.
Rice, which is the staple food there.
Exactly, Haiti's staple food. So what this really shows isn't just, a breakdown of state functions. It's the frightening reality of criminal groups becoming the de facto government for millions. It fundamentally reshapes, the whole social contract in Haiti.
That economic side, the governance breakdown, it's dire enough. But the human impact, the violence, that seems equally terrifying. What specific warnings is the UN Assistant Secretary General, Miroslav Jenka, giving about the humanitarian situation?
Yeah, Miroslav Jenka's words are pretty stark. He talks about the ongoing gang encirclement of Port-au-Prince and how their strengthened foothold is, quote, pushing the situation closer to the brink.
Closer to the brink.
And his warning to the Security Council was really unequivocal. He said, without increased action by the international community, the total collapse of state presence in the capital could become a very real scenario.
Wow, a total collapse.
That's the warning. And on the ground, the human cost is just. It's immeasurable. There's a particularly disturbing rise in sexual violence by gangs. The UN political mission in Haiti, just between March and April, documented 364 incidents involving 378 survivors.
Just in 2 months.
Yeah.
That's chilling.
It's a horrific statistic.
It really sounds like a crisis demanding urgent intervention.
Yeah.
Now, we did hear about a UN-backed mission that arrived, right?
Yeah.
How effective has that actually been in trying to quell this violence, and what are the main challenges it's running into?
Right. So there is a UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police. It did deploy to Haiti last year to try and help. But the report immediately highlights a critical challenge. It remains understaffed and underfunded.
Understaffed and underfunded.
Exactly. It's operating with only about 40% of the personnel they originally envisioned. They planned for 2,500. They have far fewer.
So severely hampered from the start.
Pretty much. And adding to that, there was a proposal back in February from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. It was for crucial non-lethal support, things like drones, fuel, transport for this mission.
Okay, practical stuff.
Right. But that proposal has unfortunately just languished in the council. It hasn't moved forward.
So the needed support isn't getting there.
It seems that way. This lack of robust, timely international support, it feels like a recurring theme in this crisis.
So with that limited international help, it sounds like maybe local communities are trying to take matters into their own hands. And the situation within the local security forces themselves, that sounds incredibly complex too. What's the report saying about those kinds of internal efforts?
Yeah, this is where the picture gets really murky, very complicated. We're seeing what the report calls a rapid growth in both private security companies and these vigilante self-defense groups.
Vigilante groups.
Okay. And it's presented as having a dual nature. Some are genuinely trying to protect their communities, that seems clear. But others are reportedly acting illegally, sometimes even colluding with the gangs.
Right, so it's not straightforward.
Not at all. And the consequences are grim. The report states, over the last 3 months, these groups reportedly killed at least 100 men and 1 woman who were suspected of gang association or collaboration.
100 people killed by these groups.
Reportedly, yes. But it doesn't stop there. The Haitian National Police, the H&P itself, they have apparently carried out a worrying number of extrajudicial killings.
The police.
Yes, the police. Suspected gang members being often summarily executed. The report gives a specific number. 281 summary executions by specialized police units just in 2024.
281.
Including 22 women and 8 children. And here's a really concerning overlap. These vigilante groups often include local police officers.
So officers are in the vigilante groups.
Some of them, yes, and some are said to be actively participating in human rights violations. So it paints this very complex, very disturbing picture of who exactly is upholding the law and who's violating it.
That is, yeah, incredibly complex. And it raises a big question. I mean, beyond the immediate violence, beyond the struggles of the police or these vigilante groups, what are the deeper reasons, the underlying factors that have allowed gangs to get such a powerful foothold? And why do efforts to stabilize Haiti seem to be, well, struggling so profoundly?
Well, what's critical to understand, according to the report, is that the gangs have really exploited political turmoil and the disorganized response to Haiti's security crisis.
Exploited the chaos.
Precisely. The report points directly at significant internal obstacles, too. Things like competing political ambitions and allegations of corruption within Haiti's transitional governing bodies.
Right.
These have apparently stymied action.
So infighting and corruption blocking progress.
It seems so. And it's not just random violence, you see. UN experts are indicating these attacks are actually backed by individuals trying to destabilize the political transition for their own political goals.
Ah, so there are political motives behind the gang violence.
That's what the experts suggest. So you get this tragic feedback loop. Political instability creates a security vacuum. The gangs exploit that vacuum, and then their increased power further destabilizes the political situation.
Making it almost impossible for legitimate governance to take hold.
Exactly. And as a result, very little progress has been made. Not on restoring public security, not even on implementing the roadmap to organize national elections, which are supposed to happen by February 2026.
So the whole political process is stalled.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the official security forces are just. They're incredibly weak. The National Police Force apparently has acute tensions in its leadership. The Army needs rebuilding. And even that multinational force we mentioned has limited ability. All these factors combined mean the gangs will continue to have the upper hand unless stronger international support is provided. That's the stark assessment.
As stronger support comes.
And then there's the final layer, the weapons. Despite a UN arms embargo being in place,
There's an embargo.
yes, but gangs keep getting more powerful weapons. They're sourcing them from regional civilian markets, apparently, and also, disturbingly, from police stockpiles within Haiti itself, and even from the neighboring Dominican Republic.
Wow. So the weapons keep flowing in despite the embargo. What a challenging, just multifaceted situation this is.
It truly is.
We've seen how gangs now control these vast swaths of Haiti's capital, how that affects everything from the basic idea of governance to the price of food skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And these difficult, sometimes contradictory efforts to respond. It's genuinely sobering to hear how deeply entrenched all these issues really are.
And if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, I think this deep dive really shows us just how deeply interconnected everything is. The political instability, the security vacuums, the economic hardship, the human rights issues, they all feed each other.
Right. It's all linked.
It really is. And maybe something to consider is, what does it truly mean for a nation when the very institutions that are meant to protect citizens are themselves compromised or maybe even complicit? And how does that impact any prospect of rebuilding stability from within? Especially as we just heard, when the flow of arms continues almost unchecked, it leaves you wondering, what truly effective path forward even exists when so many of the foundational pillars seem to be crumbling or undermined?